From The National, this is Trending Middle East. I'm Yasmin Altaji. It's Tuesday, June 17th. Here are today's headlines. Death tolls in both Iran and Israel continue to climb. It's now day 5 of unprecedented conflict between Tehran and Tel Aviv since Israel launched strikes on Iran last week. The attacks came just after the UN's nuclear watchdog, the International Atomic Energy Agency, or IAEA, declared Iran in violation of its nuclear non-proliferation duties. Since then, Israel has struck Iran's nuclear sites and oil fields. Here's The National's Hadya Alawi with more.
In a significant escalation of hostilities on Monday, Iran launched missile attacks on the Israeli cities of Tel Aviv and Haifa, resulting in 8 deaths and 92 injuries, according to Israel's emergency services. This marks the 4th consecutive day of open warfare between the two nations, with a total of at least 24 Israeli deaths since Friday, and Iran reporting at least 224 deaths. Israel's Defense Minister Israel Katz issued a warning to Tehran, stating that its citizens would soon pay the price for Iran's actions. However, Katz later clarified that Israel does not intend to deliberately harm Iranian civilians. Simultaneously, Israel carried out new airstrikes, targeting Quds Force command centers in Tehran, further inflaming the situation.
The IAEA warned there had been a radiation and chemical leak in the Natanz nuclear plant in Iran, which Israel targeted on Friday. It said that there was no risk yet to the environment outside the site. On Monday, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian said Iran did not intend to develop nuclear weapons, but would pursue its right to nuclear energy. Israel claimed in the 4th day of the conflict that it had achieved, quote, aerial superiority, unquote, over Tehran and could fly over the Iranian capital with impunity. U.S. President Donald Trump has called on Israel and Iran to reach an agreement, suggesting that undisclosed talks were underway. Meanwhile, Russia has come forward in a bid to mediate nuclear talks. The Kremlin said that Russia remains ready to act as a mediator, and Moscow's previous proposal to store Iranian uranium remains on the table. But the EU said Russia cannot be an objective mediator and said it has, quote, zero credibility.
Meanwhile, IRGC issued a statement threatening continued and more devastating strikes on Israel, signaling a prolonged campaign with the aim of inflicting strategic damage on key Israeli assets.
Israel's move to cancel a waiver that allows Israeli banks to transact with their Palestinian counterparts risks the creation of a cash-dependent economy and a black market. Last week, Israeli Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich canceled the waiver just hours after the UK and other countries imposed sanctions on him and another hardline Israeli minister. Smotrich had threatened to do the same last year in retaliation for the recognition of the state of Palestine by 3 European countries. Here's The National's Sarmad Khan with more.
The order by Israeli finance minister last week will, for all practical purposes, will isolate banks operating in the West Bank and Gaza from the international financial system.
The Palestinian financial and banking system is largely dependent on the yearly renewal of the waiver that was just canceled. It also protects Israeli banks from potential legal action relating to transactions with their Palestinian counterparts, like in relation to financing terrorism. The Palestinian Monetary Authority, meanwhile, which acts like a central bank, is unable to print money or issue its own currency. It warned that a disruption like this would pose a serious threat.
So without the access to Israeli banks, financial institutions in Palestine are seriously hamstrung. And with a crippled banking system, the other option is a cash economy. But in that system, there is no transparency on what sort of goods and services are being transacted in cash. And it basically gives a free hand to criminal elements and encourage illicit trade. The black market is definitely hard to control without a properly functioning banking system.
The order will take time to go into effect, but it would be a paralyzing blow for the Palestinian financial and banking system, which is already struggling with restrictions from Israel.
The status of this Israeli move is that it is a direction so far from the Israeli finance minister. So this step has to be ratified by Israel's Security Council, and a vote on that matter has not yet been called. For context, G7 countries, the US, and even the UN have all opposed such a move from Israel in the past, and they have said that it is going to deteriorate further the humanitarian situation in the occupied territories.
The 4 main Israeli company stands at the Paris Airshow have been shut down by organizers on the opening day. That's according to an official from Israel's Ministry of Defense speaking to the Reuters news agency. A source familiar with the matter said the instruction came from French authorities after Israeli firms failed to comply with a direction from a French security agency to remove offensive or kinetic weapons from the stands. Defense is a big part of the showcase at the event this year. Israeli firms have been promoting new products ahead of the show, the biggest aviation trade show in the world. The biennial expo comes only days after Air India Flight 171, a Boeing 787 Dreamliner, crashed in the city of Ahmedabad, killing all but one of the 242 people on board and others on the ground. Boeing's chief executive Kelly Ortberg and its chief of commercial planes unit, Stephanie Pope, have canceled their planned trip to the show, and Boeing has limited its schedule at the event as it focuses on supporting the Air India crash investigation. That's all for this morning's headlines. You can get these stories and follow live updates at our site. Yasmin Al-Taji, The National.